Thank you for watching this study in the book of 2 Thessalonians. Today we're in 2 Thessalonians, the second chapter, the second verse. Now, yesterday we covered verse number 1, and I want to remind you of two things. Number one, this is controversial. You know, I've said it before. There's, I don't know how many different views of the return of Jesus Christ and also the rapture of the church. I'm going to give you my view. This is what I understand. This is where I find my comfort. This is where I find my peace. This is where I find my hope. And that's what I want to give to you. I want you to understand that there's two events that are going to happen. Two events that are going to happen to this old world. By the way, all this stuff about ecology and the world being destroyed and all that stuff, it's not going to happen for at least 1,000 years. I mean, it's just asinine to believe that. You see, this world is going to go through tremendous changes. The first change is going to take place after the rapture of the church, and it's called the 7 years of tribulation. The last 3.5 years of that is called the wrath of God, or the great tribulation. How many of you realize that this world is headed for some very, very difficult times? But then the other event is going to be a glorious one for believers. It's going to be when Jesus touches down on the Mount of Olives, and he sets up his rule and reign over the earth for 1,000 years. Wow. Wow. Can you imagine this earth and no Satan, no demons, just Jesus and his people? Wow, 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 wow. The lion's going to lay down with the lamb. Those squirrels that keep bugging me by eating my bird food, you know what? They're not going to bug me no more. Anyway, it's going to be glorious. Now, in verse number 2, the Apostle Paul gives us the reason for writing this. And this is what he says: that you not be quickly shaken from your composure, or be disturbed either by the Spirit, or a message, or a letter as from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. Now, why is the Apostle Paul writing this? And we talked about this yesterday, and this is something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. Anytime you're studying the return of Jesus, the rapture of the church, the tribulation, any of those events, the thing that you need to keep in the back of your mind is those things were written to us to bring the believer comfort and to bring the unbeliever a warning. Do you understand? Now, I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. I don't find a whole lot of comfort in some person that's teaching us, well, you're going to go through the wrath of God. You know, I just don't find great comfort in that, and I don't believe that. The wrath of God is never meant for the believer. And we may get into that later on, but not today. Why is Paul writing this? He says that you would not be quickly shaken in your composure. What this word shaken here, it actually means to be shaken like the wind. Have you ever been in a traumatic windstorm? Have you ever been in a tornado? I rode out a tornado one time when I was a younger man. And you know what? It was not fun. It was shaking everything. I remember the windows blowing out of the house. I remember the carpet sucked off the floor in the living room and right out the window and laying in the cow yard. I mean, it was something that was devastating. Now, what's happened here is the Thessalonians are being devastated. They're being shaken. Their very composure, their very insides, not just shaken physically, but their insides are being shaken by a teaching. Now, what we believe, and we have very little historical fact, but this is what we believe. We believe that someone has written a letter and sent it to the Thessalonians and said, this letter is from the Apostle Paul. Sorry, guys, the day of the Lord has already taken place. In other words, all of this stuff about the rapture, all of this stuff about the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, you missed it. You know, one of my biggest concerns is to miss the rapture. Now, I'm already guaranteed, and you're guaranteed as a believer, it's going to happen for you. But you know what? Can you think of a person? Let's put ourselves in the setting of the Thessalonians. Here they are, they're suffering persecution. They're seeing their friends and families die because of their faith. And then somebody comes along and has the audacity to say, sorry guys, you missed the rapture. Sorry guys, it's all over. Wow. And so Paul says, I'm writing to you that you won't be quickly shaken. And then he goes on and he says, or disturbed either by a spirit. When he talks about a spirit here, he's talking about a demonic spirit that can come to shake a person's composure. And then he goes on and he says, or a message. This would be a verbal message that someone is preaching to them. Or a letter as being from us. And we believe that's one of the things that has absolutely happened. That a letter has been sent in the name of the Apostle Paul that is really causing devastation in the church. And then he goes on to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. You see, the Apostle Paul is writing to these Thessalonians, and he's writing with this purpose, that they will not be shaken. That they won't lose their composure, that they won't be disturbed. When he uses this word disturbed, he's talking about something that's very frightening. It's not just talking about an uneasy feeling. He's talking about something that's extremely frightening to them. And so the Apostle Paul is writing to the Thessalonians with this purpose, that they won't be frightened and that they won't come to a place where they're losing their composure, where they're losing their faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, join us again tomorrow. Will you do that? Don't just cut me off because you don't believe what I'm saying. Join with me tomorrow as we continue this study of the book of 2 Thessalonians. Thank you for watching.